On all this, we turn now to tonight's panel. Two Fox News contributors joining me here, Margaret Hoover, and from L.A., Leslie Marshall. First of all, Margaret, I got to ask you what you think about Sean.
I think Sean is terrific. I mean, what a breath of fresh air, frankly. And so many people in Massachusetts, I was talking to some folks in Massachusetts today, said for so long they've wanted to get rid of Barney Frank, but there hasn't been a great candidate. Finally, there's an upstanding citizen, a U.S. Marine, highly educated, really bright, breath of fresh air coming into the scene. And he could actually win.
Leslie, Barney Frank won in 2006 by 100%. That's because there was nobody going against him. Finally, at least it's good in the political contest, no matter where you stand, to have a competitor, a worthy competitor, no?
Well, what you guys probably don't know is I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's part of the district.
Yes, it is. I grew up, and my mom and my whole family still lives in the district. And you may have talked to a few people, but I'm related to a lot more people who are going to vote for Congressman Frank again because he's done a lot for the district and for the state of Massachusetts, and he's going to continue to be able to do what he's done for
I'm not going to in any way, shape, or form get you to say that he's a worthy opponent of Barney Frank, but let me ask you about Barney Frank. Do you think we are too tough on Barney Frank and his complicity with what happened with Fannie and Freddie?
You asking me? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, no one person, David, and I agree with you right before you came to us, what you said. This is a mess, and responsible parties fall on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
We're giving Barney Frank way too much power if we give him all the blame. Therefore, do we give him all the credit once the economy? That's what I'm hearing today.
About what I said, blame is on both sides. However, you think of some of the statements that Barney Frank said at a time when everybody was saying, wait, it needs more oversight. He was saying, no, it doesn't need more oversight.
Well, because he made a misjudgment, as he has admitted to in 2003, and he wasn't clairvoyant and had a crystal ball about the economy and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac specifically. Think about it. Former President Bush had at one time, and both sides, Democrats and Republicans, pushed for more affordable home loans, wanted bigger profits, and wanted new quotas for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Perhaps it was greed that was to be blamed here.
In July 2008, 5 years after that comment that we put up, Frank said Fannie and Freddie are fundamentally sound. They are not in danger of going under. That was July 2008. September 2008, federal government seizes Fannie and Freddie.
That's exactly right. And 2 weeks before, Secretary Paulson had called him and told him that they were in trouble and that the government might bail them out. Look, if this were just about Fannie and Freddie, we could debate that, but it's not even just about that. Barney Frank is somebody who has been consistently corrupted by the powers that he has held in Washington. He is surrounded by several scandals right now. One, Watersgate. It looks like he wrote the legislation which actually bailed out Maxine Waters' husband's bank and augmented the balance sheets to make it look like they were worth a lot more than it was. There's another scandal about him misreporting gifts, private jet rides down to the Bahamas. Barney Frank is also somebody who's been blinded by his own ideology for his entire almost 40 years in government. It is time to retire.
Leslie, hasn't he been there too long?
Oh no! I mean, that's really up to the constituency, for crying out loud. How old was Strom Thurmond? You know what I do? I believe in term limits, but we have them, David. It's called our power to vote, and if we become educated voters when we place that vote, we'll have term limits.
Hold on a second, Leslie. I got to tell you, I'm for term limits, whether they're Republicans, whether they're Democrats, no matter which party it is. You can be in too long. The power gets to you. Go ahead, Margaret.
I would just say to Leslie, I'm glad you're from Massachusetts. That means you know that your district went for Scott Brown by 1%. So this is a real shot. Barney Frank could really lose a seat, and he knows it. That's why Bill Clinton has been there. Sean Bilat may be the next congressman from Massachusetts.
It's a tight race. Ladies, thank you very much. Margaret and Leslie, we'll see more of you coming up next time. You're Welcome back, everybody. Well, an incredible new poll catching our attention. If you listen to the mainstream media, the Tea Parties are extremists. Not so, say the American people. According to the Hill midterm election poll, 44% of voters see the Democratic Party leadership as extremists, opposed to 37% who say the same about the GOP. Now, Democrats in traditionally conservative districts see the writing on the wall, but this new ad really takes the cake.
Georgia is a long way from San Francisco, and Jim Marshall is a long way from Nancy Pelosi. Jim Marshall doesn't support Nancy Pelosi. He voted the same as Republican leaders 65% of the time. Jim Marshall worked and voted against Pelosi's $1 trillion health care bill because we can't afford it. And Jim Marshall is endorsed by the NRA, Right to Life, and the Chamber of Commerce. They wouldn't have anything to do with a Nancy Pelosi supporter.
That is Democratic Georgia Congressman Jim Marshall, the latest Democrat to take a shot at Nancy Pelosi. So what does this mean for November? Let's get ahead of the curve with our panel. We got Matt McCall, Margaret Hoover is back, and so is Leslie Marshall out in L.A. Leslie, let me start with you. Were you surprised to see the ad?
First of all, I'm not related, okay? I know the same last name. I am not related. You know what? No. And it's really sad, David, and maybe I'm going to flip on term limits here and go with you when it comes to this guy. This is not a Democrat. This is a Republican. Look at who's supporting him. I'm a Democrat who voted 65% with Republicans. You're not a Democrat. Take the blue shirt off in the D and show us the R that is branded on your chest. He's a blue dog, which to me is a Republican.
All right, but you know, the fact is that the NRA, for example, is supporting something like 40 or 50 Democrats right now. So there are a lot of blue dog. There are a lot of blue dog Democrats now who are trying to flex their conservative muscle.
Of course they are, and let's not forget how Democrats took back the House. Rahm Emanuel went around and recruited all these blue dogs so that they could take back the House in 2006, and that's what's really going on here. Now they need to distance themselves from Nancy Pelosi. When you've got a Congress where 17 of the 20 chairmanships are seated by people who won their districts. Obama won their district by 70% or more. What you've got is a liberal hijacking of a Democratic Congress. And if you're a blue dog, you've got to distance
Although,
yourself.
you know what this reminds me of, Matt McCall? It reminds me of a lot of stuff that we heard about from Republicans back when some of them were backing away from President Bush's overspending. And we are now hearing some of it about John Boehner. People worried that he's not conservative enough to be the Speaker of this new House.
You know, I actually really respect it, and I respect the people that are doing this. And I'll tell you why. Because we've always had this, either you're Democrat or Republican, and you always side with the party. I like the fact now that you're actually speaking your mind. Maybe you don't agree with the entire campaign that your Republican Party is pushing, or Democrat Party. So let's be somewhat independent.
Leslie, the point is here that leadership of all parties is getting hit. First it was George Bush, John Boehner's getting hit now, and it's happening to Democrats. Isn't there something healthy? Aren't you, as a good Democrat, aren't you anti-establishment?
Well, I am anti-establishment in the sense that I like when people, Scott Brown, for example, will step aside from their party and will say, I'm going to do what's best for my constituency. However, what I want to see, David, left or right, less mudslinging, talking more about their own record and their own merit. You don't have to just be a poster child for your party. And you definitely, Nancy Pelosi is not running in Georgia.
Margaret, you go back to the days of the 20s, even the last century, the 1800s, and you see a lot more mudslinging than you do today. People, I think now, particularly this year, are talking issues.
People are talking issues, and I just got to say about John Boehner, I think the criticism, look, Leslie, if everybody understands they want to win. Republicans want to win back the Congress. I think John Boehner actually gets it. Yeah. He understands what they did wrong, and he's going to do what's best. And I don't think he's going to be totally, I think he's going to be very pragmatic. You're going to see a lot of
course, Leslie, all of the mudslinging has been from the right. There has nothing to do with calling candidates witches and things like that, right? Democrats would never do that, would they?
What did I say, David? I said I'd like to see less mudslinging from both sides. They are both sides. By the way, telling me that you're me is not an issue, by the way. Or what issue is that? John Boehner represents exactly what the Tea Party is saying they want to take this country back from. Corporatists.
First and last word from Leslie Marshall. She was picking up one side of the story here. Coming up on deck, Utah taking first place in a list of top states for business. So is a small business in the news? We treat them as if they're stocks. Would you buy them, sell them, or hold them? Fireworks on The View today. Our friend Bill O'Reilly was the guest, and a discussion was the Ground Zero Mosque, and look what happened.
What religion were they in? What religion was Mr. McVeigh? Mr. McVeigh was an extremist as well, and he killed people. 70% of the country. I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here. You're outraged about Muslims killing us on 9/11.
Well, as you can see, Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg walked off. Now, Barbara Walters actually criticized him for walking off. They did eventually return and the conversation resumed, but Behar and Whoopi Goldberg walking off the set like that, is that a buy, sell, or hold, Margaret?
It is a sell, absolutely a sell. Look, what we were talking about earlier is this intense hyperpolarization in the rhetoric, in the commentary today. People are just turned off by that. You can't just tune out, walk off, and bail.
One sell.
I'm selling it too. You know, O'Reilly made a point, and you can go back and forth and comment on that point. You know, they just got mad and walked off. That's not fair. It's a talk show where you have to.
And Barbara stayed and disagreed with Bill, but she stayed. That's the point. What do you think? Leslie?
I would say sell too. I have to say, come on, they know Bill's no wallflower. This is a very emotionally charged issue. They're the host. He's a guest. You invite him. You hear him out. Even if you disagree, you don't walk off.
And there was something that looked planned about it all. I mean, to see them both doing it, I think they had something going on there before all this happened. I say it's a sell, and so does Scoreboard. All right, Queen Elizabeth II has canceled the palace Christmas party because of the economic climate. More than 600 people usually attend the party, which is paid for by the Queen's private fund. At the party, the royals mix it up, even dance with the servants. So you can imagine the palace workers are not very happy that the party has been called off. So canceling the Christmas party at the Queen's house.
Look, I say sell. I appreciate that they're trying to appear austere in a time of economic downturn, but come on, these are the palace workers. They deserve a little face time with the Queen.
I'm selling this as well. I mean, what we need right now, not only in the U.S., UK, and every other country, is some confidence. Let's give some confidence and realize the world's not ending. Go out there and have some fun, have some drinks and dance.
Leslie, buy, sell, or hold?
Well, I would say sell. I got to tell you, the Queen was using their money for her heating bill. Use some of that cash for the Christmas party.
Couldn't